every one of those models, there's thousands of models out there. Every single one of those models has one thing in common. They know absolutely nothing about the client. And that is where I think this personalization really falls down, and that's where Nebo steps in. Personalization in terms of what are your goals, what is the optimal portfolio to satisfy your goals, or what is the optimal model from an array of models in order to satisfy those goals. And that it is just the natural evolution in terms of personalization, but it's really the asset allocation side that the industry, I think that's where we can really improve upon.
So I want to elaborate on that a little more. The use of models is extremely powerful, and we think that's a trend that is definitely going to persist. But obviously there are inherent limitations with models. But what we can do is we can start with that kind of standard model portfolio. Think about that as a core. But what if you own a private business? Or what if the advisor wants to sprinkle in some other investment options around that kind of core model? Well, we have the capability to introduce satellite investment options, and those could be outside assets, they could be a private business, they could be alternatives. The client might come in, actually we're seeing this more and more, they may own Bitcoin. So how are you going to handle that? Are you just going to ignore it? Or are you going to include that as a held away outside asset and then inform the rest of the portfolio that that thing exists? And so you need to account for that. So we have the capability to do kind of a models of models approach where you have a kind of standard model as the core of the portfolio and then enhance that with satellite strategy.
And I think the real power with that, like one of the other things that firms struggle with is, particularly with these RIAs that are aggregators, they're acquiring more and more firms. They promise advisor autonomy. Makes total sense. But then they bring them on board, and then they have an issue with respect to enterprise-wide risk management. And so how do you balance that? And so what Martin described, this model of models, what that does is provide a freedom within a framework for advisors. So you can give them guardrails. You can give them options in terms of how you can personalize and how you can customize those portfolios. But you do it within a structure that is systematic in terms of how you ultimately end up allocating the portfolio.